Hi, my name's Jane Meredith, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm making this video on Darug and Gundungurra lands, west of Sydney in Australia. And I'm here today with Willow Kelly to talk about Willow's contribution to the Pearl Pentacle, Magic of the Pearl Pentacle book, where Willow has a beautiful essay in the love section. Thanks for coming on the call, Willow.
Thank you so much, Jane Meredith. My name is Willow Kelly, and the pronouns I use are she and they. I live on Ho-Chunk and Potawatomi lands, also known as Madison, Wisconsin, here in the very chilly Midwest right now.
Yeah, we're doing this interview or conversation summer to winter, so to speak. And we were just chatting before the call about how interesting that this particular essay, beautiful essay that Willow has written, is about love and death. And before we go down that track, I'd love to ask you, Willow, because this whole book is about the Pearl Pentacle and what your relationship is, your personal relationship or your feeling or how you relate to the Pearl Pentacle as a being, as a concept, as a magical construct, whatever it is for you.
Um, I've got quite the answer for you. So, first of all, I would say the first two or three times that I took Pearl Pentacle, it didn't resonate with me at all. I didn't find my way into it. I couldn't find my way into it. And when I would take the classes, I could jump into that love point and I could feel it. And then as we progressed through like law, liberty, wisdom, knowledge, I would just feel myself kind of my energy just going down and getting confused and not quite feeling the essence of it. And then just through my work in reclaiming my own personal practice, my own personal work, and how I work with pentacles, I decided to approach it differently. So, what I started doing was looking at each point through the lens of each point. So, I
Mm,
would start with love, and then I would look at the knowledge of love, the wisdom of love, the liberty of love, and taking that tack with each of the points and seeing like in diving into each one and then seeing that as the lens to look at the other four, that's when it took off. That's when it became magic. That's when I started understanding how interconnected they were and how many layers and subtleties of the magic were there and unfolding and evolving. So now it's one of my favorite tools.
I love that, Willow. And I'd call that the pearl of pearl, right? When you do like a mini little pentacle within each point. And I love that kind of really like intricate work, almost like a kind of embroidery with the magic. So thanks for offering that. And I noticed in your answer that you said, like, I started off with love and that was all good, and I was totally there. And how interesting that the essay that we asked for you was in the love section, right? Your historic strength in the Pearl Pentacle, or the leaping off point for everyone, the introduction point. So, yeah, again, I'd love to ask you, what is love to you? What does that mean to you? Or how does that turn up in your life? What part does that play?
You're just asking all the great questions today because this was another thing that was really hard for me. I had a sense of what the feeling of love was in my body, like this cellular joy kind of thing. But in terms of actually defining it and what it meant and how it would manifest and what it would look like, has been a decades long journey. And for me, it's all come back to the charge of the goddess, where if that which you seek, you find not within yourself, you will never find it without. And understanding that I really didn't get it, that I really didn't know what love was. I was taught in the Christian faith about turning the other cheek and laying down my life for a friend and all of these different concepts of what love could be. And then as I became an adult and started trying to understand that and how to be a healthy person and have good boundaries and really understand love, I found myself not knowing what it was and taking on the spell working of working with it every day until it would teach me what it was. And I feel like I'm still learning. I feel like I'm still a student of love. And my working definition now is to be deeply invested in the well being of the object of my love. So whether it's me or the planet or my community or a friend or a lover or my cat, It's that sense of wanting profoundly what is best for them, even if it's not what I want from that relationship, even if it's not what I would desire most. I want what is best for them and that I can elevate that. That's my best definition I've got of love at the moment.
It's a very beautiful definition, and I think really welcoming, because the fact that you're saying you're a lifelong student of love, like I think that's the invitation of these magical tools, right? It's not that you learn it once and then you've done it and then you move on, but you keep deepening and deepening with it. And certainly your essay really invites that, really opening up how to journey with love. And you've companioned it with death, how to marry these two huge, pivotal kind of life lessons together, and to walk, to tread that line, that foot in each realm, really is what I feel your essay doing. And I'm going to just read like a couple of sentences out from the beginning of your essay, which is called What is Remembered Lives, which is something that we often say to each other, and especially around the death of someone that we love. So you've said that, I'm just going to read it. The love of community changed the course of our collective magic, our relationship with dying and death, my life and their deaths. We'll never do it perfectly. Life and death are messy. We do the best we can, and hopefully forgive or unburden ourselves and each other for the unintentional harm we cause as we learn to do better and grow together in love. And from that point on follows your story with two deeply beloved reclaiming people who you were invited in and stepped into their dying and death process. So obviously that link is made in the essay and in the book, but I'd love to hear personally, like, just go a bit further, I guess, on your previous answer about how death is a part of love.
Um, I am also a death positive person and am a home funeral and green burial guide. And what I've noticed about death in our modernized Western culture, for the most part, with little exception, is that it's very removed from us and it's very sanitized. And there's this repetitive shock that happens when we lose someone. Like we were just in the hospital with them, and then we hear that they are dead, and then we go to the mortuary and they're laid out, but they look like they're alive. And there's this very disorienting, very um, cut off, capsulated. I'm not finding the right word, but like things are all separated from each other and cut off. And we end up in this place of feeling like if you've lost someone like that, there's this constant re-awareness of them being dead that comes as a shock, where it's like you'll go to sleep and then wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, they're dead. And then it'll happen 10 times during the day. Oh my God, they're dead. And the shock just keeps coming back over and over. And it's because we aren't being with death while it's happening. Because when we step into these places that are tender and difficult, when we step in there and we're willing to be there with the complexity of the feeling, the joy, the pain, the memories, the grief, the all of it, what happens is we create a container of love. We create a boat of love to carry that person to the other side. We talk about our memories of them and our joys of them and how we are tending them now as they're dying, or even as they are dead, tending their bodies. And there's something that reconnects inside of us. There's a way that love takes root and it grows when we show up in these places together. You can't be with death without feeling the love in the
Mm,
room.
mm,
And it's also a place where people who caused us problems in our communities, people that irritated us, that got under our skin, that we tried to organize with, and they drove us nuts. And we've said terrible things about them behind their backs, and we feel bad about it sometimes, and sometimes we don't. And then one of those people gets a terminal diagnosis. and they begin the process of dying. And then suddenly the perspective changes about that conflict and the importance of that conflict and that irritability versus the value of this person in my community and how they have positively impacted things. There's a way that death wears us down and lets love emerge in ways that we don't let it emerge in our daily lives. Softens us.
Yeah, I've really found that with deaths in my life that, I mean, certainly love doesn't finish with death, right? And in fact, that softening and I'd say deepening and almost clarifying has happened for me when significant people have died, many years after. Um, I'm thinking particularly of my mother, but also some dear friends. And just the feeling of my love and really the love that I received from them is still very, very alive. It doesn't matter if it's 10 years after their death, 20 years after their death. And this ability of love to kind of not just weave through the death and dying process, but to be as alive as it was while they were alive. It's really powerful and magical to me, I guess. Um, Before we came into this call, we were talking a bit, or I was talking a bit about, you mentioned also death as an initiation in that essay. And I think not just an individual initiation that you're talking about there, but an initiation as a community or as when we step up to care for those loved ones who are dying or dead. And I was really drawn by that connection to initiation, because of course it is, but also because in the Pearl Pentacle, one of the points, and it's often run as the final point, is knowledge, which I've always thought of as initiatory knowledge. And so, yeah, a knowledge which leads back to love. And this, I guess I had this feeling as I was thinking that of each one of those pearl points being like a portal, into kind of deepening initiations. And reflecting back at the beginning where you spoke about like it took you a while to get into Pearl or to really find your own way in. I mean, that really makes sense when we're talking about Pearl points as an initiation, because of course, with an initiation, one doesn't just rock up and through the gate. One has to kind of sit on the other side of the gate and do the work first before maybe the gate opens or the questions are asked and maybe entry is granted or not. I wonder if you want to say anything more about this love and or death as an initiatory ride.
I think the act of dying is the ultimate initiation, and it's the one that we practice as witches in our initiations. I know Buddhists practice dying. There's a lot of spiritual traditions that work with that in a way that is preparatory for when our time comes and understanding some sort of context for that experience being as mystical and mysterious as it is. I think too about when I think about initiations, I think about getting those impossible challenges. Like you get the challenge and you're like, there's no way. When you're becoming a doctor and you have to do your thesis, when you're there's just thousands of these scenarios where you look at this incredibly daunting task and wonder if you can ever do it, if you'll ever have the capacity or stamina to make it through. And then when you do, something magic happens, right? Like we become this other version of ourselves that's even more refined, more potent, more who we are because we made that challenge. We did the essay with joy and love in our hearts and to do our best to do it without fear. And when we do that, and especially when we do those kinds of things together, the sense of completeness, accomplishment, wholeness that happens at the end of those kinds of challenges is just extraordinary. And we do get more power and we do get more authority and more understanding of our place in things and what we have the capacity to change.
Yeah. And one of the things that I really loved about your essay, Willow, was that it broadened this concept of showing up to death from as an individual task or challenge to a community task or challenge or initiation. And I feel like that sings throughout your piece of writing. And, you've really gone at some lengths to describe how that felt and looked, and what those people who were dying like asked for and wanted and needed, and how a community can not just show up for death, but actually be transformed by it and receive that love and that initiation through that death. So I think it's a really beautiful piece of work. I hope you're really proud of it. And it is in this book, in the first section, Magic of the Pearl Pentacle, which is coming out early March, very soon. So I hope you get to read it. Thanks so much, Willow. Thanks for showing up to this conversation and telling us a little bit about, your behind the scenes kind of processing and what went into producing that beautiful piece of writing.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, Jane Meredith, and I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing and getting these books out into the world. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for watching. Okay.